I now call this Board of Selectmen meeting to order on Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. Before we get started, I do want to read an order here. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Adams Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. However, all members of the Board of Selectmen are present. It's just remote for others who are calling in from the public. So no in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. We have posted today's agenda accordingly, which included the call-in information for today's meeting. But a reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by tuning into channel 1303. Thank you to our friends at Northern Berkshire Community Television, but specifically Peter Gentile, who has not missed a meeting since we started this process March 18th, or by calling 1-929-436-2866 with a meeting ID 9305755. 4395, or via zoom.com, meeting ID 93057554395 with a password of TOABOS. And if you missed that information, it can be found, as well as all information for subsequent meetings while Town Hall remains closed. You can find all of that information on the town's website at town.adams.ma.us. And despite our best efforts, if we're not able to provide for real-time access, a recording of this meeting will be posted on nbctc.org as soon as they are able, or it can be made available upon request. With all of that being said, I would like to ask all of you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I also want to point out that it is EMS week, and I just want to thank all of the EMS workers, all of our EMTs, frontline workers, and just celebrate them this week. So I just wanted to take a moment to do so. With all of that, I guess we can get right into business, and it's nice to see all of you gentlemen 6 feet away from one another, but at least here. So with that, the first item of business is approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes before us this evening, one for April 29th, 2020, and the other is May 6th. It is my understanding all members should be able to vote on these. And what is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we accept the meetings as written.
The minutes is written for April 29th and May 6th?
Yes.
Thank you, Jim, for the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And I have a second by John. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or an abstention? All right. That is unanimous. That brings us to public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the board about a matter that is not presently on the agenda? I will unmute our callers. Ed, Linda, Deb, anything that you wish to speak about this evening to the board?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
Okay. Then hearing none, I will go ahead and mute all of you again. Only so that we don't have all the background noise, not for any other reason. All right. So I'll close public comment. We'll move on to old business. And We have this evening Haley Mezwar, our town clerk, who's going to give us an update on the town election and do the best to use her outdoor voice.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, great.
All right, I'm just here, I feel like I'm a broken record, but, I like to come before the Board of Selectmen just to keep announcing that there is going to be a town election. It was postponed from May 4th to June 1st. It's going to be at the DPW garage. It's going to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Those are our voting hours. If you don't feel comfortable with coming to the polls to vote, we still want to encourage you to vote. I know that some of you may not feel comfortable about doing that, so if you want to, you can request an absentee ballot or an early voting ballot. You have two options. You can do one or the other. If you want to call us in our office, we're more than happy to send you one of the applications, and then you can, we'll send it to you, you get it back to us, we'll mail you your ballot. If you don't feel you want to do that, and you just want to jot down a little note, and you sign your name to it, saying that you're requesting an annual town election ballot, we're more than happy to send it to you that way too. It makes it a little bit quicker, because I know we're approaching, it's only a week and a half away, so we want to make sure that we get all of our voters covered, and that you have plenty of time to get your ballot in the mail and get it back to us. If for some reason you don't, get your ballot until next week, next Friday or Thursday, and you want to return it, you are more than welcome to return it to the DPW garage. We're going to allow that this time, just because of the time crunch that we're under, and, you're more than welcome to just run it in, give it to us, and leave. Somebody will be by the door, so you can do that also. But we also want to encourage anybody that is coming to vote in person. I would really encourage you, if you have a mask, please wear it. It's for your protection and for all of the workers' protection. We will have protection for them. We're trying to make that work as safe as possible for them, and for them to feel safe coming out to be there from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, to check you all in and get your ballot and get the, checks back out. But I will really encourage, if you do have a mask, please wear it. We really would appreciate that to the, to the fullest that we can. We want to keep everybody as safe as possible. I think that's about it. I can say that a lot of people have taken advantage of the early voting. We've seen a huge increase in our absentee and early voting ballots. We typically have, between 30 and 40 for an annual town election. We've mailed out 155 ballots so far. So we've seen a huge increase, which is really nice, and hopefully people will stay safe and, feel safe when they come to voting on Monday, June 1st.
And Haley, just a quick thanks to Mass Emergency Management Agency, Northern Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee. They were able to provide not just Adams, but other communities with PPE for our election workers. And we'll have a custodian on duty full-time at the garage. We have plenty of masks, we have gloves, and we have plenty of cleaning supplies. So we are prepared. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
So thanks to MEMA and the Emergency Operations Center for helping us out.
Thank you for coordinating.
You're welcome.
Do we have any questions from the board?
I just have a comment. I'd like to personally thank Virginia Duval for the work that she's doing, trying to promote, people coming out to vote. So thank you, Virginia.
Yeah, she's been sending out lots of emails and encouraging people, to come out and vote, and encouraging people, if they don't feel safe, to certainly vote by mail.
Madam Chair, I have a question. So you can go to the town's website and you can print out the absentee ballots. And you can submit that. What is a reasonable date that one must have these mailed in to be able to make it to you by the election day? I know there's another option. If it doesn't, you can still go to the DPW garage if you wait. Try to get it in, is there certain dates, by this date?
I will say, I will give a shout out to the post office. They've been excellent in working with us. We get the applications in the morning. We process them, we get the ballots all set and ready, and I drop them off right after lunch, and people are getting them the next day because they're staying in town. So the post office has been wonderful to work with. I'm not gonna say that that always happens, but it has been happening under most of our circumstances. I've mailed out, we've gotten the application in, we've mailed it out that day, and it's back in our Dropbox out front. I forgot to mention that, it's back in our Dropbox out front, so it's a 2-day turnaround. Yeah, if somebody does get an absentee ballot or an early voting ballot and they don't want to stick it in the mail, they're more than welcome to put it in our Dropbox out front up here at Town Hall. So I would say the latest, they can request it up till next Thursday, the 28th, but I would certainly say if they are at all interested, the earlier the better.
Anything else?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question if that topic is concluded. The board has received information in regards to the 2010 census. And at the time, Adams had 8,485 residents. And I know every year the town does a census, I believe. First question is, for the current year or the last year that you have done the census, how close are we to the 8,485 residents from like the last year?
They were pretty close.
Pretty close to that number still, so we've leveled off. Okay. And the last question in regards to when we were here together prior to the COVID-19 virus, when it hit, we were having some great inputs from our town leads in regards to getting people to sign up for the U.S. Census. It was really good news. The board was excited about the path we were taking, and then the virus hit. So is there any change in when the U.S. Census is due, or is, do you have any idea how we're doing? Because I know at a certain point they will let us know how many people have submitted a census form. So how are we doing in that area?
Well, I wish I could report that we were doing a little better. Massachusetts itself, for some reason, has been at like 61.9%. Adams, currently as of today, was at 64.8%, with 53 of that percent being done through the internet. So whether they did it through the internet or they made a phone call, I can tell you that they have mailed out paper census forms. So that's probably that extra 10% is between the phone calls and the paper that have gone out. I haven't heard that they're going to extend it as of yet, but that's hopefully a possibility. I mean, even across the country. We sent out flyers. They passed out flyers. That's 2 weeks ago at the food bank. There were a couple of food banks that we did a flyer. We put it out on there. We posted, they had a weekend, a media weekend, through the internet. So we did a notice on the town website. We did a notice on our Facebook page here. Erica did one, our COA director, she put it on her Facebook page, and I believe that Holly, our library director, put it on hers also. So, I mean, we're doing okay as far as, when the pandemic hit. What are you gonna do?
And I think one of the next phases is follow-up. Not sure how that's gonna happen.
I don't know how that's
No one
gonna happen
knows.
either.
It's one of the several unknowns we'll talk about this evening. But, okay, I appreciate the current.
I mean, I certainly hope that if they mailed out one mailing to residents and on paper, that at least they'll hopefully try to do another mailing also. And we will certainly try to continue it through Facebook, our town website, and hopefully through the food bank. And as I was just thinking that maybe we could send out a flyer, because I know the charity center is starting back. They started last week, and I think this is the third week, so maybe we can get a flyer sent too, and they'll stick it in their bags as they do that too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? I'm sorry, Rick or Jim? Okay. Thank you very much. If you will let Donna know that she's free to come in and wait, that'd be great. So that brings us down to new business. And as we have with all of our meetings, we've started off with a COVID-19 or town operations update. Jay, is there anything that you would like to update us on at this time?
I can give a very brief overview of some of the reopening information that was disseminated by the governor's office Monday and analyzed yesterday. However, first, we have one new active case in the town of Adams for a positive COVID-19, so we're up to approximately a total of 35 cases. In Berkshire County-wise, I believe we're now up to an even 500 with an approximate 37 death count on there. So our numbers are very good, both regionally and within the town, and the general consensus is that we are stabilized. However, with that being said, it's a very fragile stabilization. Town operations have remained the same. We have not made any changes recently. We continue to operate on split hours as well as buildings closed to the public. As of Monday, there was an announcement by the governor with his reopening Massachusetts plan. There is no immediate impact to municipal operations. And we will remain status quo at least through June 1st. On May 25th, next Monday, there is a provision for office space to be opened. However, there's a limitation that can only be with folks equaling less than 25% of maximum occupancy. So we are just presently reviewing our sanitation procedures. We're reviewing our custodial supplies, and in very early June, we're going to have a department head meeting and discuss with all of our departments and building managers exactly what a reopening plan will look like for the town to be ready to do so. The biggest key with reopening is the sanitation of our buildings. The Visitor Center in Council on Aging. That is a very popular building, open to the public during the summer months, adjacent to a very popular recreational trail that also handles an incredibly vulnerable demographic here in town. We have to balance that need out. So we're going to be assessing what that building looks like when we reopen. The library as well is a public building with traffic. We have to reassess that. We only have 2 full-time custodians, and they are responsible for handling all of the public buildings during the normal course. But everything about reopening that you can find in this document, Reopening Massachusetts, talks about a sanitation plan. There's going to be an incredible burden upon the town custodial staff in order to meet these standards. So it's not as easy as flicking a light switch and opening the door saying we're open for business. We have to be methodical about how we do this. So that's where we are in terms of town operations. In terms of the public should know that there are not many changes right now effective as of Monday. However, manufacturing, construction, and retail with curbside pickups, places of worship, and firearms retailers and shooting ranges may now operate. As of May 25th, laboratories, life science facilities, offices limited to less than 25% of maximum occupancy may reopen. Car washes for exterior and self-service only. Hair salons, barber shops by appointment only. Pet grooming by appointment only with curbside drop-off and pickup. Certain outdoor recreational facilities and activities. In terms of the outdoor recreational facilities and activities, all of the additional guidance provided by the Office of the Governor and Department of Public Health indicates that what we are doing now with our parks, which are closed and only open for passive recreation, is the standard through phase 1. Phase 1 of reopening will remain in effect for approximately 3 to 4 weeks unless the data says otherwise. Meaning we either start to slide back with additional positive hits, and we have to maintain a phase 1 status for a period of time, or at the 3-week to 4-week mark, our numbers look good, and we can then progress into phase 2. I've asked DPW Director Tober to review the implications for our outdoor facilities in phase 2. We'll have more information as we go, but we do not anticipate any significant changes for at least another month in some of our outdoor facilities. Gray Lock Glen remains accessible. The rail trail remains accessible, and our open spaces remain accessible for passive recreation only. I would advise any any business in town to look at the Reopening Massachusetts website first. There's a lot of information on there. It's very well compartmentalized, it just needs to be reviewed. So if you're a restaurant, you want to review the information that will be provided by the Department of Public Health and the Governor's Working Group for restaurants. If you're a retail establishment, office establishment, or manufacturing, go there first. None of this is regulated by the town of Adams or any other municipality. All of this is regulated by the Division of Labor Standards and the Department of Public Health. However, it is enforceable by the local Board of Health and municipal government. So before you reach us here at Town Hall, get that data first, get your baseline, and then call the Inspection Services Bureau, have a conversation with Jerry or Mark if you have any additional questions. They're coming up to speed now, they're digesting everything as well. So we just have to take this slow as we go. Otherwise, there's not a lot of significant information really to pass out. That's all I have for town operations.
Any questions for Jay? I'm going to start with John, just because for camera, if there are any questions or comments.
I'm good right now.
Okay. Good.
Oh, I just have a question. I think Jay answered it anyway, but, I received a few phone calls and text messages today about Little League. The possibility of that starting, I really don't know. I mean, you know.
Any of those folks need to go to the Reopening Massachusetts. There's specific guidance under the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, EOEAA. They need to go in there, and there's specific guidance for that type of athletics. Those are contact athletics, those are large group athletics, and probably will not be permitted until phase 3 or phase 4. The governor's order, thank you for actually bringing this up, Jim, I forgot. The governor's order that limits groups, congregations of greater than 10 is still in effect through phase 1, with the exception of municipal legislative bodies. For us, that's town meeting, places of worship, which are limited to less than 40% capacity of the building, and specific guidelines that have to be addressed by each congregation or church, and also for any outdoor space that is unenclosed, not enclosed. Those are your only exceptions to that under 10 rules. So for now, the answer is no, but direct them to this document. Once you get into it, it's pretty good. And then there's individual links that talk about each of those sectors of the economy.
That's the reason why I asked, so you can clarify it, because I'm sure I'm gonna hear, I'm going.
We talked about this morning at a meeting, a facilities meeting that we had. I would not anticipate formalized gameplay in any of our fields at all in the summer. We'll be lucky to see if we have a football season in the fall, but I wouldn't plan on that right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Rick, anything?
No.
Joe?
Yeah, just one statement. Today it's looking like if you have gone through the COVID-19 sickness, that it's starting to show that you will have an immunity for it. Scientists have done tests on laboratory monkeys injecting it, and I don't know how the process goes, but they're starting to hedge that if you've had the COVID-19, you may be immune from recatching it.
Thank you. All right, so we will go on to the next item of business then, and that's Donna is going to talk to us about some funding opportunities that are available. So in your packet, it would be the information that's from the Department of Housing and Community Development. That's where this starts.
Right, so I'd like to thank Donna for appearing tonight. Joe and I have had a few conversations over the last couple of weeks about different funding opportunities that come fast at us. We've tried to distill what affects the municipality versus what affects the private sector. There hasn't been a lot of evolution in terms of what's available for the private sector, other than the CARES Act and some of the other provisions that are out there. But there's also some provisions now that are beginning to receive guidance from the regulatory agencies on municipalities. So Donna's going to walk us through all of those and be able to just keep us in the loop on what we have available to us.
So that document that I was referring to is right after the minutes.
If board members don't have it, I've made extra copies.
Okay. Does anyone need a copy that Donna has prepared? You have it? You're set? Everybody good? I think we're good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Donna, sorry about that.
That's fine.
And I'm gonna ask you to use your best outdoor voice as possible, because those who are following along on the phone can't
Okay.
hear you, because your microphone only is picked up by community television.
All right, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
So we've been, we've heard, once the CARES Act of 2020, was, launched, we had heard that there was funding available within that package, for community development block grants. We've been watching it, as you can imagine, funding first went to entitlement communities like Pittsfield and larger communities across the Commonwealth. They've already received their funding through the CARES Act, and they're implementing programs. Municipalities like Adams, smaller communities, we are non-entitlement, and we just last week received this notice of funding availability through the CARES Act, by the Department of Housing and Community Development. As the board knows, that's the state agency that we typically apply annually, for our CDBG grant funds. The, Community Development Block Grant, COVID-19 program, there's a total of $9.6 million available to non-entitlement communities. Municipalities may apply for CDBG CV funds to provide grant funding for up to $10,000 per business to qualifying micro enterprises that are adversely impacted by COVID-19. Now, how does this program define micro enterprises? The term micro enterprise means any commercial enterprise that has 5 or fewer employees, one or more of whom own the enterprise. And then because this is CDBG, they also have to meet low to moderate income requirements. Either the business owner, he or she has to be considered low to moderate income, or they need to serve a clientele primarily low to moderate income, or serve be in an area that is primarily low to moderate income. So we have, I have received a list from Haley of our licensed businesses, and there's 289 businesses in the town. So we're in the process. I don't think we're going to have an absolutely accurate count, but just to get a general understanding of what we're looking at. Communities can apply for up to $400,000 for these funds. We have been working with Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, and together we talked about how can we get more money into the county and serve more communities. So what we're proposing is to submit a regional application with the town of Adams being the lead community. This would allow us to hopefully get beyond the 400,000 limit for a single community. We're proposing an application of 850,000. Now that would serve Adams, Cheshire, Clarksburg, Dalton, Florida, Hancock, Hinsdale, Lanesboro, New Ashford, Peru, Savoy, Williamstown, and Windsor. So it would be all of the northern Berkshire communities. And just so the board knows, Berkshire Regional Planning Commission is also working with, I believe it's Lennox, to apply for a South County, similar, where Lennox is the lead community. So one of the, as the board knows, CDBG is quite rigorous in terms of its application. That's all been reduced, and it's a good thing because the application deadline is June 5th. So we're talking about 2 weeks from tomorrow, basically, or 2 weeks from this Friday, when applications are due. So we've got a lot of work, and one of the requirements, we still have a public hearing requirement. I have taken the liberty of advertising a public hearing, and I hope board members will be able to participate. If we cannot, we'll have to pull it and probably not apply. But we're proposing June 5th as the public hearing. I'm sorry, I said June 5th, June 1st
So it's Monday, June 1st as the public hearing date. So I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit, but,
Sure. Yep, it'll be, in 7 PM. That is the town election day, so we made the public hearing following the closing of the polls. Will be 7 PM. That was decided around 3:30 today.
right.
That's why you're just finding out now. I didn't have time to send an email.
And it's really been, since we figured out the approach, and then we had to scramble in terms of, usually the newspaper needs at least 48 hours in order to, be able to publish an ad. They worked with us, but we had to have the ad in by 3:30 today, or else we couldn't do it. One of the things, because the public hearing will be, a Zoom meeting, anybody that wants to comment will be allowed to comment both 5 days before the public hearing and 5 days after. We're also going to, given under the circumstances, we'll also be very open to receiving comments thereafter the application submittal, and that information, any feedback we get can go into the implementation of the program. But this is fast and furious. We are, it's very similar to the town's housing rehabilitation program because we have to go through a process of determining income eligibility. The same process will be used to determine eligibility for this, and do these businesses qualify under the low to moderate income criteria for this CDBG funding. So, although I will say that DHCD, they need to get the money out quickly. They tried to streamline this, but they also have those parameters that they need to adhere to, and so will the town.
So I've been asked previously, thank you, Donna, I've been asked previously, what funds does the town of Adams have available for small businesses in town? This is the first program that we have access to that will allow us to, as a municipality, as a government, as a public entity, to help the private sector. We had received notification of funding available through the through the State Attorney General's office, maximum of $50,000 grant that could be also utilized to help small businesses. Donna and her team was right on that. We put in an application. We have not yet heard. So those have been the only two opportunities for municipal government to say, what can we do to help small business? What is going on for municipal reimbursement? Donna and her team are also looking at this. We have a couple of sources of funding. None of them are perfect. The first, FEMA, managed through FEMA. That is for any cost associated with the town responding to and mitigating to the COVID-19 emergency. Normally, that has a local percentage share component to it. It's usually, I think, 25, 75, 25, I think, Don. We just received notification yesterday through the State Office of Administration and Finance that the CARES Act funding component can be used by a municipality to match the FEMA funding. Adams is eligible for up to $712,000 through the CARES Act in a very similar structure to what a normal FEMA disaster reimbursement looks like. That doesn't mean we get all $712,000. It means whatever expenses the town has incurred, overtime, material, anything that was not budgeted and not expected and not revenue loss can be applied for. Donna and Mary Beverly and all the department heads are keeping track of those types of expenses. For example, you may have heard me say 2 weeks ago, I think now, at our budget workshop regarding the wastewater treatment plant, our daily processing has gone up, and that also means our process chemicals have gone up. That is a direct result of the COVID-19 emergency. We can take that cost, break that out, put it into the reimbursement formula, and do that. That is the only mechanisms, I believe, so far, Don, that we have. There's nothing else out there at all. As you know, the House, the federal House is still throwing around another stimulus package that doesn't seem to be a lot of traction, but we'll continue to monitor. So I hope that that kind of gives everybody a snapshot as to what's out there. If you're sitting at home, you're a small business owner, public, you want to know what programs are out there, go to our webpage. The town clerk has done a fantastic job of putting our COVID-19 information right there in the banner. And then Kevin, our senior planner, is just keeping an eye on that to make sure that's updated with all the programs out there. But there's been nothing new since we talked about the CARES Act, the payroll protection plan, and none of those are eligible for us to apply for. Did I miss anything, Don? I think we...
No, I think, I mean, this, as I said, this is gonna move quick, and town staff, we're not gonna sit, and wait to see if we have funding. We're gonna go forward, assuming we're going to get funding. We're gonna be putting the application package together, so when we get that award letter, we'll be ready to go, and our businesses, and, you know, they can, you know, be prepared as well to respond, so we can get this money. Again, it's up to $10,000. It's meant to help you with, you know, if you're renting a building, staffing costs, other costs of the business, you know, obviously is having a hard time addressing during the pandemic. So we want to be getting these funds out as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Questions? I will start with Joe, because I'm trying to be mindful of Peter doing the planning and the people at home. I'm there. I was a communications major, Peter. I'm there for you. Go ahead, Joe, if you have anything.
First of all, I think what we had done as a board, making more positions in planning is really starting to pay off. And so I want to thank Donna and people that are doing the planning. With the time frames that we're seeing here, it's just nice that we have the extra people to be able to get these together. I like the regional approach, but should we receive the $850,000, how will it be divvied out proportionally to communities?
Well, it'll be first come, first served to some degree. Not every business, we have talked about this a little bit, we don't anticipate every business getting $10,000. There is going to be a justification process. The business is going to have to show that, hey, I haven't been able to pay my rent, you know, for two months or something. So there is going to be a focus on need. But, you know, there's some communities in that list that have, as you know, very few businesses. And there are other communities that, are there many businesses that would be able to meet the low to moderate income criteria? I feel that we should be in a good position to assess anywhere from 35 to 50 of our businesses. But a lot of it is on them. They've got to provide the information. Like, I can't, you know, if they're going to take a month or 2 months to give me the, you know, my staff, the information that is needed to qualify them, that slows it down. But I think, Joe, we'll be able to do even better, potentially, for, you know, getting more money into add-ons.
Yeah, well, that's always a good thing. And lastly, I think it was you I spoke to about how the community bank finally got themselves in a position to help out. Could you explain that? I thought that was
Well, it was an article in the Boston Globe that I happened to read, I think it was a Saturday or a Sunday, and Charlie O'Brien, bank president of Madison Community, was noted a couple of times. He was quoted in the article a few times. I will say I was concerned that they kept referring to the bank as being located in North Adams, but that aside, they compared, the article compared Adams Community Bank and a coastal savings bank, and talked about how they had been thwarted in the first round of CARES Act funding for small businesses, that the larger banks, Bank of America, et cetera, are able to push through so many applications as to keep smaller banks, and there are fewer applications out of the process. So they got creative and started working at midnight, at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and processing things then, and they were able, in the span of the second round of CARES Act funding, from Monday to Wednesday, get all 2,000 applications that Adams Community Bank had in for their businesses. And it really was a kind of a heartwarming story. It was just like, yay, team, you know? So hats off for Adams Community Bank. And I have to say, having a mortgage with them, but they were right there, sending out to all their, community members that have mortgages, that, hey, let us know if you need help. We're here for you and stuff. So it really was the way to do it.
Yeah, and I know some people that have received money through that program, and I don't want to mention it.
Rick, anything for Donna?
Yes, do we have the staffing to administer this for all of North Berkshire?
It will be a shared effort with Berkshire Regional Planning staff. But I think importantly, from my perspective, I will be, through this program, potentially, we will be ensuring long-term, employment for some of our staff. So I think that's a win-win. We all anticipate difficult budget decisions ahead, and I'm trying to make sure that our staff are fully funded by maybe non-town funds to ease, should that situation happen. So the answer is, there's always a trade-off, I think to your point, but I think we can do it in-house. It's not new for us to do the, to go through the process of determining eligibility. It's very akin to what we've already got a fair amount of, history with the housing rehab program. So I feel confident we'll be able to do it and do it well.
Yes, we have a couple businesses in town that are right now shut down, basically. One is shut down, the other one is slowed down immensely because of the White Trail being rebuilt. I'm sure part of it's COVID also. I mean, they can't open because of COVID. Will that affect them at all because it's part of White Trail restructuring?
I don't think so. I think the overarching thing would be the fact of people not being able to get together and stuff, and that they, like all retail establishments, or I should say most retail establishments, have had to close their doors because of COVID. So yes, that's, that's a factor. It's a factor we would take in, but I think overall, I don't see that would be, would exclude them outright, no.
Thank you.
John?
I agree with the regional approach and, working with the BRPC. The level of review and approval, the town of Adams will review applications and will submit them, I assume, to the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. Will they also have a final review and approval?
Yes, we're trying to, and again, this is hitting us so quickly, we have not figured out the exact process. Some of the things that Pat Mullins, with the RPC staff and I've talked about is, they may need to take in initial, applications. For example, if I was somebody in the town of Florida, why am I sending an application into Adams, but I'm more comfortable sending it into Berkshire Regional? So maybe they do the initial, review of applications, making sure that all the, documentation is provided, and then they would ship it to us to evaluate, from an income eligibility. Nobody likes doing that, so Pat said, you can have it. But we're looking at that way of divvying up the workload, so.
And the last question is, you mentioned, the town of Adams being proactive in this approach. Do you plan on, reaching out to the, businesses that do on paper qualify by sending them an application or having a public hearing or a training, or is there anything that you have in mind that can help our businesses get a leg up on this application?
Well, we will, so it will start June first, and certainly any businesses that, either see the ad in the paper, my email address is in the ad. Any businesses that you know of, it's always helpful if somebody shoots me an email and says, hey, I'm really interested in this program. I really need this help. That would be very beneficial because we do have to demonstrate need to the, Department of Housing and Community Development. So if I can show them that, hey, we've already got businesses that are clamoring for this, that would be helpful. So the public hearing would be first. We have a portal on our website. I've been thinking maybe we can make it easy where we do an online application, so people just go to the website and, either fill it out on the website or certainly download the application. So, to your point, John, yes, we definitely keep that in mind. If the board members have any suggestions as we go through this quickly, I'm all ears. We want to make this easy. And this, as most of you know, the normal CDBG process is 18 months, and routinely we get another 6-month extension. So really, each program is 24 months. They're hoping to have this done 6 to 9 months. So it's all fast track, and, I think everybody recognizes the money needs to get out there quickly, and then people need to see, is there still more funding that's going to be needed to help folks.
And also, I just want to make a point too, that even though town hall closes, technically for staff at 1 p.m., most of Donna's team and Donna herself remain. I remain well beyond 1 o'clock. DPW director remains here, and inspectional services has continued to operate at full staff. So we're getting close to the point where we have to reassess the amount of work coming in and put staff back to work. We just want to do that in a smart way and consistent with the guidelines coming from Boston. But I'd like to thank Donna and her team, Becky, who has still a long drive. She still comes to work here in town, so I thank them for their efforts because this stuff is happening so fast and being put out so fast and is still so technical that without that team, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it.
All right, thank you. So Donna, there's no action from the board this evening, just that we've asked everybody to put on their calendars the June 1st, 7 p.m. public hearing, which is a Board of Selectmen meeting and public hearing. And then on June 3rd, is there a second public hearing or no?
No, it would be June 1st.
June 1st.
And again, this has been moving so quickly. Initially, we were thinking of the June 3rd, which would have been your normal meeting date. But then there's been some concern that the 5 days after, we're still not going to meet the 5 days after, but we're certainly offering more public comment than if we had it Wednesday. Typically, under CDBG, we have to have 2 consecutive weeks of notice, so they've eliminated that requirement, but we're still trying to do as good a job as we can in terms of public notice and getting the information out there, allowing the public under these odd circumstances to comment on this. I did print out copies of the ad that will go into the Berkshire Eagle. It will be published on Friday and on Tuesday. Again, surprise, we have a Memorial Day holiday, so again, just to be extra cautious and giving proper notice. So.
And we can get that on social media as well.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was part of the.
Yeah, we are, I appreciate the board's support. We're excited, town staff to be able to do this, do our part. So, I really appreciate, the board being willing to, kind of meet, so with, such quick notice.
Well, they were just informed this evening, so.
I know, yes.
We're hoping. Things are moving quickly, as Donna mentioned, so we're we're trying to meet some other deadlines and get this, so I do apologize that I didn't give you all advance notice prior to, right now. So you have another question?
To
Close it out?
piggyback on what John said, is somebody, who would be the contact person? Because I plan on going to some of the smaller businesses and telling that, who should the contact person be?
It would be me.
Okay.
You could, give them that notice, actually, Joe, we can make you extra copies if you want to just hand out that notice
Yeah.
if they don't see it in the newspaper. And if they just want to do a phone call, you know, the community development, number is 743-8300, extension 171, or my personal extension is 131. So by all means, call. We will put you on a list, and that will help us decipher, you know, how many businesses could potentially be eligible under this program. But I would appreciate, you know, like Jim, Joe, and any of you that have, hey, I think this business would qualify. Any of those heads up would be helpful to us. So, you know, to your point, John, if we didn't get an application, we can give them a call and, are you aware of this? So we'll try to make it as interactive as possible.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, just to follow up, that's great. Joe wants to go to this. Unfortunately, I think some of the businesses that are gonna need it the most aren't able to be open. So we're gonna find another way to reach them.
Fair point.
So maybe Berkshire can do, an article for us or something, we can
Sure.
explore that.
Okay. Anything else?
I'd just like to say on Rick's point, the people that I'm gonna approach, I know them personally, so I can call them if their businesses are.
Very good.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I have a question for Don, I don't have anything to do with this, I don't know if you
Okay.
know or not, but I've gotten a number of phone calls about the Grove Street project and the Powell Street project. Are they still in line with the timeframe that they were scheduled?
You mean Grant Street or,
Grove.
Route 8.
Route 8. Route 8 has not been, to our knowledge, the state has not advertised the project yet. We anticipate it to be any day though. I'm not sure that's, in Boston. It has nothing to do with town. We have completed, all of our work, the right-of-way certificate was issued. So we're just waiting for it to be advertised. I would imagine they're dealing with a lot of things as well. In terms of Crotto Street, we are going to have, via Skype, our pre-construction meeting this Friday. As the board knows, Davenport, Excavating or Davenport, Trucking, I believe their name is. I haven't worked with them, but they are the low bidder. And so we hope to, once we do contract documents and everything has been approved, and the town administrator will issue a notice to proceed. So that will be a project going forward. We still have, I will say, we still have a few, rights of entry from property owners to obtain. So anyone listening, that would be helpful to send those in. We've done a mailing to everybody along the road, so.
Thank you, Donna.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, Donna.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And if you will let Robert know that he can come on in. Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the topic of transfer station fees, and it's a timely matter. We are not taking any action this evening. This is all an informational presentation. I do realize that you have a lot of information in your packet, so I'm going to ask that when I do unmute Linda and I talk, and when Robert talks as well, that you reference the document that you might want us to be looking at, and maybe if it has a title or whatever it might be. As I look at it, this is the packet just on transfer station this evening, and there's quite a bit here. Before I open things up to Linda and to Robert, I'm going to let you know that you're going to need to use your outdoor voice for anybody who's on the phone, which includes Linda listening. because that microphone only goes to the community television. The same with Joe's microphone that he put at the end of the table, it only goes to community television, so the phone won't pick you up. So outdoor voice. And then I'm going to, yeah, that's the closest
Gotta reach
phone. So Jay, I'm going to turn things over to you. If you wanted to just give any type of introduction to this topic, and I know that Jim also serves as a liaison from our board on this topic, so I'll let the two of you.
Great, thank you. So as everyone knows, this time of year, we usually take a look at our transfer station operation, both in the context of our budget season, as well as how are we doing on our permit fees, and what actions the Board of Selectmen will take with those required fees for the upcoming fiscal year. Unfortunately, as with COVID-19, everything is fluid and dynamic, and that is also true with the transfer station fiscal analysis that we have to perform. As everyone may know, Adams is a member of the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District. They handle, through Linda Cernick's leadership as director of the district, all of our hazardous waste planning, mitigation, and essentially the management of the removal and management, bargaining, and implementation of the contract for hauling. The town of Adams pays to remove the waste from the transfer station. The transfer station is funded in two methods: budget appropriation, as well as a revolving fund, of which the permit fees and the bag tag fees go into. So it's essentially split 50-50. We pay for the removal from one or both of those accounts. So the amount of money that we have to pay for removal is directly proportional to the amount of money that we charge for a use permit at the transfer station. So right now, it's incredibly hard for DPW Director Tober and I to be able to go to the district, to Commissioner Bush, Commissioner Driscoll, and Linda, and say, hey, what's our fees going to be fiscal 21, so we can advise the board. We just don't have that information. So we don't know what it's going to look like, so we really can't give you an example. So as we have the conversation, Robert's got some more information for you. Linda and Jim have some information for you just to give you the landscape of what we're looking at. There's some significant changes coming up with the management of these accounts. To give you just a quick introduction, so I don't steal Linda's thunder, there was a lot of the documents that you see in front of you is background that Linda provided to show you what the district's been working on and why we're in the predicament we are. There was a determination that those contracts have to meet prevailing wage requirements. The entire recycling and trash removal market, as it did in 2008, 2009, has been turned upside down. And locally, there's been consolidation of vendors, which means we essentially don't have as much competition. But I'm going to turn it over to Jim because he's in the room, and then he can turn it over to Linda. I don't know if I misspoke at all, Jim, but if there's anything that you want to add from your perspective.
Well, there is no competition. It's one owner now. So we're beating our heads against the wall when we negotiate. Well, we do have a outside firm negotiating with Casella Waste to try to reduce our costs. We do have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to be discussing the future contract. The contract will not be ready tomorrow. We're just going to have a rough idea what it's going to be, unfortunately. They are sent out to, I believe, September before we're going to be locking anything because of COVID-19. So we do have some time to stretch things out and search, but there's not a whole lot out there. I'll have Linda talk about it. She got a lot more knowledge on this tonight.
Thank you, Jim. So as Jim stated, we've been in negotiation with Casella since December with Kessler Consulting firm. And there are some changes coming down the pipeline due to the prevailing wage. And I did provide documents The district took part in a hearing with the Department of Labor with two of the other solid waste districts, our co-partners, to try to challenge the classification rate that's being put on us. We are under the classification rate of the Department of Labor and Teamsters Union for heavy hauling of construction. So in your packet, you will see under the 3-axle driver equipment, that is the prevailing wage we're facing. We did attend the...
I'm going to stop you. What are you looking at?
I emailed over the prevailing wage information on the hearing, the decision, and then the prevailing wage document I had to pull to start negotiations.
Okay.
Does everyone see that?
The pages aren't numbered, so it is a cover letter on the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, Department of Labor Standards letterhead dated February 11th, 2020. Is that correct, Linda?
That's the hearing, yes, correct.
And then there's a 6-page document right behind it on prevailing wage rate.
Yes, that's the decision from the hearing that we attended.
So those are the documents that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, there should be another document behind it with 6 pages of the actual prevailing wage. When you go out for contract, you have full prevailing wage through the Department of Labor.
Okay. So just pause one moment until we're all on the same page. So this is the first page. It's a letterhead. It would have been behind the community development block grant. There was some funding information for the transfer station. There was a contract, and then there was a contract dated 2015. It's right behind that. I apologize if the transfer station stuff isn't numbered. I should have done that. I apologize. Yep, that one. Yep, so Jim, you have it. And then there's a 6-page document right behind it. As well as the decision. So once you find this, you're in good shape. Rick, you're there? Joe, are you there?
Yeah.
John, are you there?
I am there.
Okay. Then I think, oh, you have it. I thought, okay. All right, so Linda, I think we're good to go.
Okay. So as you see under the 3-axle driver equipment, under the prevailing wage that I pulled, we're facing a prevailing wage of $46.63. You will see every year it does go up, and we have to adhere to that prevailing wage. The hauler has to pay for that. For the employee, and they have to provide wage records to the district, and I keep those on file. They send them to me monthly. Prior to us going out to negotiate with Casella, the contract for the MSW in construction and demolition that is in place at this time was set before I started with the district and was set for 10 years, and it did not have to adhere to the prevailing wage of the Teamsters. It was under the prevailing wage of the Department of Public Works, and it was at like a $25 and change per hour, and I don't know the exact rate. So there's a huge difference in hauling and wages that Casella will be adhering to. I did attend the hearing. We tried to, dispute the classification, and as you see, the Department of Labor, and again, they didn't go for, they went against us, so we have to adhere to the prevailing wage. Franklin, Hampshire is taking it to the next level to Superior Court. It has been put on hold due to COVID-19. It could take a year. We're not sure how long it's going to take, but they're taking it to the next level to see if they can reverse the classification. We're not disputing the Teamsters rate. We're disputing the classification because the transfer station is considered a construction site for heavy hauling. So we're at a standstill there, so we have to adhere to that rate. So we started negotiations in December. It's been a long haul. We finally got some numbers together from Casella, and like Jim said, we are meeting with Trevor Mance tomorrow, manager of contracts, to try to negotiate lower rates and some provisions in this upcoming contract. So the differences you'll see for recycling, the current contract, and if I'm going too fast, let me know, okay?
I'll
The
slow
current-
down if I need to. You're good.
The current contract in place until June 30th. And at this time, the current contract has been extended to the end of September at a 30-day window to not exceed September 30th at the current rate because of COVID-19. So as it stands right now, the new current contract that we do negotiate should not hit until October 1st, unless COVID-19 goes away, and we know that's not going to happen. So for recycling, at this time, all of the towns in the district pay a haul fee. There's no processing fees. So there's a haul fee of $3.66 per haul with 2 ton or 4 ton. It doesn't matter how much is in that container for a double haul, which is a tandem haul, which is a 2 hauls at once. A single haul is $3.81 a haul. The new contract that they're proposing, there will be a per pull haul fee. So when that container goes out, you're going to pay a standard haul fee of $365. In addition, you're going to pay a processing fee. The paper will go to the Pownell, Vermont recycling facility for the paper. The plastic and glass will go to their Rutland facility. So they're proposing for the paper, we're going to be getting a credit. It's going to be a $10 processing fee for the paper per ton on top of your $365 per haul. Plastic and glass, you're going to be paying $110 a ton for your processing. Average, the town of Athens does anywhere from 3 to 4 pulls per paper recycling and per plastic and glass. So reduction of hauls is key to this. And I can get into some recommendations after. For your MSW, and you don't have the construction demolition, so we won't get into that. Your MSW is your municipal solid waste, which is your trash. Right now, I want to say the district has had a gift for over 10 years. There has been no haul fees whatsoever with the prior hauler. It's just been a per ton fee. And right now you're paying $110 a ton for your MSW, full or not. When it pulls out, they bill you if you have 2 tons, 3 tons. We've implemented the Casella does not want that hauled until it's almost full. So full is about 8 to 10 tons you can get in that container with your compactor. So looking at this, you're going to be paying a per haul fee now because of the prevailing wage, and then a $97 per ton processing fee for your trash. We are going to try to negotiate these numbers down. Like Jim said, we're meeting with Trevor tomorrow, and I think it's going to be more than just one meeting. I put together some questions. The subcommittee, Board of Commissioners, have many questions. Recommendations for reduction in hauls is investing in a paper compactor. There is a grant we can apply for through Sustainable Materials Recovery Grants right now. They're due June 10th. If awarded, the grant is for $8,000. And I've been told and approved through Mass DEP that you can use that $8,000 toward the used paper compactor. I did email out information to Robert Tober and to Jim on recommendations from the town of Peru. They purchased a compactor a few years ago, and it has reduced hauls immensely. So let's say right now you're getting about 2.5 ton if you pack it well in that container. With a paper compactor, you can get anywhere from 5 to 6 ton. So that's your average tonnage right now that Adams is producing. But now with COVID-19, you're producing a little more because people are home. But that would reduce your hauls to one haul. You're still gonna have to pay for the tonnage, but if you don't compact it or reduce those hauls, you're gonna be paying most likely for 4 to 5 hauls just for your paper. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, Linda, aren't we also looking at larger containers?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Possibility of getting larger containers to reduce hauls. Are we looking at larger containers to reduce hauls?
So I looked into our containers, and I talked to Jan Amin, our co-partner out in Franklin, Hampshire, because she does our inspections right now through Mass DEP. We have 30-yard containers. If you went with a 40-yard container with the roofs on them, it makes the container too high. So we do have 30-yard containers, and that's the standard for all transfer stations. We can explore the 40-yard container, but it's going to be considerably higher, and we have to make sure that the residents can access that safely to put your plastic and glass in. The paper compactor, those containers are pretty large. I can see if Trevor can do something bigger. But again, I think the compactor is going to be the way to go, it being this year or next year. You know, that's entirely up to you as the board to decide if you want to apply for that. I would apply for you. But we are going to talk about that tomorrow with Trevor. You know, on one note, I did send over the assessments too for the town's assessments for the district, and we did lower the assessment rate. We appropriated $6,000 from our reserve. So that's bringing your assessment rate down a little bit this year. I don't know if you've noticed that, so. And
Okay.
and at this time, North Adams is, you know, at a hold on joining the district with COVID-19. We were moving forward, but it went to the city council. Now there's a new city council, and Williams College did present, but we have not, you know, gotten any further with that. So we're going to go with the assessment without North Adams joining. We do have the opportunity for the Charm Center, and I don't know if Jim has talked to you a little bit about that. Charm Center is a center for hard to recycle items such as tires, brush, electronics, mattresses, items that the town of Adams doesn't collect yearly and that are very costly to recycle. And we have an agreement with North Adams at this time that any resident in the district can utilize the Charm Center with a cost, of course, for each item. But that we're working on prices on that as well as we move forward.
Yeah, that'll also reduce our costs because we won't have to run the bulky waste any longer. It'll all be going to North Adams at our residents' discretion instead of once a year, correct?
Well, they'll be able to, Mike and I are working a monthly Charm, so there'll be a specific day just for our residents to utilize the Charm. But he talked about getting an MOU together, so that's our next step. When Mike has the MOU, memorandum of agreement, then we'll meet and our understanding, and then meet, and the board will approve or disapprove of the MOU. But we are trying to get this lower, but like I said, every solid waste, Franklin, Hampshire, Hilltown Resources are all facing the same prevailing wage and haul charges. A lot of the Franklin, Hampshire and Hilltown Resources are using the Springfield MRF. We didn't choose to go with that one because Casella is our hauler. They have their own MRF. It would be a longer hauling if we went to Springfield. And all of the towns had to buy into the MRF and sign a 10-year agreement. And that would have triggered a special town meeting. And we couldn't do that on behalf of the towns without everyone approving it through meetings. So we're at the same processing fees as the MRF. But some of their hauling charges are a little lower because the towns are closer to the Springfield facilities than we are to ours.
Linda, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to see if Robert has anything, or Jim, go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing that you didn't mention, Linda, that North Adams has on Kessler
Oh.
consulting fees too.
They are, I'm sorry, yes, you're right, Jim, thank you. I forgot about that.
Robert, anything to add?
Yeah, again, I don't know if this is in your package or not, but we did try to include a spreadsheet, that Linda had put together. This was an attempt to get some kind of an idea on what this pricing change would be.
Did it like
It should
this?
be labeled recycling costs.
Yep.
Yeah, if you look at the top, row there, Adam, you go all the way over to the right. We're predicting, again, nothing's in concrete here, we're still negotiating, but based upon figures from 2019, we're expecting about a 32% increase for Adams for recycling. That's, in dollar terms, about $9,828. And the calculation of those figures are all based on that row that you see there. Again, it's predicted based upon 2019, the average number of homes for that year, the tonnage, and then we predicted out, what that change would be. Again, it is dependent upon what the negotiations come up with, but that's our prediction based upon these numbers right here. So, about a 33% increase, which comes out to about $9,828. That's for recycling. If you go to MSW, which is another spreadsheet, and you go to the top row for Adams, this includes all the other towns too. There's 11 of them, but just for Adams, if you look at that for MSW, go all the way to the right-hand column, the total. We're looking at about a 34% increase. Dollars, we're talking $5,130. You see that on the spreadsheet?
Okay. I was gonna do to take a picture, and then like.
Is it underneath that one right there, John? On your left, if it is underneath that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I have it a second. Or I'll try it.
Everyone has the document? Okay. I will open it to questions, Robert, unless there's anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I think that's it. It was pretty much, maybe one other thing, as far as, I did do a little bit of research on our permit fees. We charge about $50 for access to the transfer station. Other towns are charging considerably more, just to give you some idea. Williamstown is charging $120 a year. Windsor is $75, and Cheshire is $100.
I will open it up to questions from the board, and the camera's pointed in that direction, so that means Joe gets to go first with any questions you might have for Linda, for Robert, for Jay, Jim.
Well, there's a lot to digest here, and I just received this, but a few initial thoughts that I have is, when you get a monopoly and you have the market, and Cam, they weren't unionized, were they, whoever would like to answer, was Cam, the hauler, were they a unionized group?
Well, no, but the union doesn't really dictate the prevailing wage. Because we're hauling from a municipality, we have to adhere to it. Does that help that answer that question?
Yep, and as far as Casella, what's their geographic scope? Are they nationwide haulers?
I believe so. I know they have a lot of New York, Connecticut, and Vermont, but I can't say if they're nationwide. I can look it up right now for you on the website, though.
They are nationwide. I went to a seminar at MMA conference, and the people there were saying that Casella Waste is a nationwide organization.
Okay, because, why I say that, it just recently, Casella bought Daily, Trucking which was moderate size, nothing really big, but this is what nationwide companies do. They buy out their competitors, and you probably see that if you were able to look at the history of Casella disposal. Another thing, once again, I wish I had more time with this. This is an important issue, and one thing that I realized at our transfer station, and I brought this up, our compactor isn't on a three-phase, so our compaction isn't getting to the maximum when we compact the trash. So we're sending out bulk, which isn't compacted as much as it could be. Another thing too, when it comes to the recycling of plastics, aluminum cans, and glass, I see when I bring my recyclables up that is still bulky. If there was some type of compaction within those bins to break things and bring them down more, because they fluff up as you bring in cans, and plastics and glass would break, of course. So is that something that is a possibility?
We are looking into glass crushing programs. So there's a grant we can apply for, but as of right now, we don't have the volume for the program, but we are looking into their traveling glass crushing operations, where we could separate the glass from our recyclables, and then the traveling company comes around, aggregates the glass, and they take it to their facility. I don't know if there's a compaction program for plastic. I don't believe there is, but that's something we can ask Trevor tomorrow when we meet with him.
And plus, a lot of the cans that are there are aluminum, and they could be crushed down, because if you just throw them in, they all kind of just bulk up and become, quote, fluffy, whereas if you compact them down, you definitely would be able to get more in each container. And a problem I see now, too, is that it appears to me that the transfer station, with the advent of a Casella coming in, it's going to be, I don't think we can make it into a profit-making business with the use. I don't know that for a fact, but once again, a lot to digest, and I haven't really had a chance to look at everything. But a problem I know that's going on is that if things get higher, you're going to see people just going on back roads, and I see this already. And I know a place where I can bring in, you're going to see 300 tires or more down an embankment. And so if prices continue to go up, particularly in an area where we live, where people are economically strapped, they'll find ways to get rid of refuge illegally, and it's always happened. I mean, there's people that will be doing that, but that's just another thought. And I'm going to just make a layout. I was just going to ask one question. When I look at the Adams Transfer Station 3-year comparison, when I looked at fiscal year 2019, we had sold $16,000 worth of bag tag stickers, but last year we only sold 9,500. Well, that's the number. And what do you attribute the lessening of people buying the bag tag stickers? It's pretty appreciable. It's quite a drop in what we had, using the figures, which are small, from 16,000 close to 17,000 to about 11,500. The permit stickers went up, but the price also went up for a permit sticker. So what does that seem to tell you?
So
Hold on. These numbers are generated by the treasurer's office.
Yep.
Most people will buy ahead of time. A So those numbers aren't pure fiscal numbers.
Yeah.
There's overflow. So in other words, if you're gonna buy a transfer station permit, you're probably gonna buy it in June but it translates as a fiscal 20 purchase. So Kelly warned me when she gave us these numbers, as I said at the budget meeting, they're not pure fiscal year-to-year numbers. There's overlap in that.
Yeah, but it will show the trend that, the transfer station is, I don't think we can, depending, I don't know the final, figures, but, we're gonna have to take a look at the transfer station, if it's a viable, I want the transfer station. I think it's something that, our citizenry should have the opportunity to partake in, but also you have to kind of look at the bottom line. That's all I have to say right now, and perhaps I could say more, but I don't, this was just a lot thrown on me, and I just haven't been able to look at it.
And Joe, that reminds me, I should have brought up the point that, this is what would typically be a workshop topic for us to really digest in the information in the packet, although it is a lot, it was more for discussion. There's no action being asked of the board this evening. It's a very, important topic. It's something that a lot of our residents are using or would like to be using, the transfer station, for that matter. And this is, something that's going to conversation about contract and rates, and it's going to come back before us. So before it got out of hand, I wanted to make sure that we were all at least apprised of what was happening. I mean, Jim's been doing a great job communicating that to us as a liaison, but so it treats this, I guess, as a workshop and not as something that we would be voting on. So I forgot to preface this conversation.
But Madam Chairman, in order for me to have a viable discussion on this, I would need to have this kind of a little bit earlier to make a more viable discussion.
Understood. I'll do better.
No, that's a reflection, just saying.
Linda, go ahead.
I wanted to just address Joe's points. So the aluminum cans, there's 2 points on it. Aluminum cans can be put in your scrap metal. Many towns put tuna cans, every can possible in their scrap metal. Then now you're not paying to recycle them. You could implement that.
Yeah.
2, I don't look at your bag tag reduction sales as a negative. I look at as a positive, because the whole goal with Mass DEP is to reduce your MSW and increase your recycling. Everything put in a trash bag, most of it can be recycled. So I look at it as a positive on that. And we could do a survey. A lot of people buy permits, but they don't use the transfer station for everything. They just use it for the recycling, the events, the other aspects of it. They may have a private hauler pick up their trash, but Adams is doing a great job with recycling, and that's a really positive note that I wanted to bring to all of you, that you're a star at that. So,
Thank you, Linda.
reduction is key. Welcome.
Rick.
I have no questions at the moment. I'll wait until after we get all the things tomorrow.
We're talking about rates again. Okay. Jim.
Yeah, as far as bag tags and stuff, I think if and when the charm program starts in North Adams, we're gonna see an increase in bag tags and stickers, because now people will be buying stickers to get rid of their bulky waste in North Adams, which we're not doing at the present time. We have a lot of small haulers in town that are taking stuff away, so they don't need the bag tags. The small haulers are hauling them out, but they're using the sticker to get rid of their recyclables up there. So there's a lot of variables going on up there that you have to understand. Like I said, I think the charm program is gonna help Adams out immensely.
All right, Jim, thank you. Son.
I remember years ago that, we used to, as Joe alluded to, we used to have to crush our cans, that was a requirement. And, we used to break glass. I was in the Boy Scouts many years ago. That's what we did. So there are ways, to work to reduce some of the costs and change the habits of the individuals that have the permit and the, bag tags. But just sort of a statement to make, and yet there's a lot of information here, and it's a workshop topic, is that I started to look at this as, after this crisis is over, what type of community are we going to be? Do we want to be? And looking at this as a service. You take the library, right? It's a service. Nowadays, it may be, out of date, and according to some people, but I think it's a great building, and I support the library. But it's a service. Does it make a profit? No. It is subsidized by revenues, by taxpayers, by state funding. Take Council on Aging. I don't know what other organization in our town government that makes a profit. So I started to change I know years ago, we talked that we want to make this revenue neutral. What kind of a community do we want to have? And I think a lot of people like to have, as Joe's indicated, a few others, that a lot of people like the transfer station. So my focus is to treat it as a service. Everything else we do, nothing makes a profit. It's, we subsidize everything we have here. What type of community do we want coming out of this crisis? So hopefully that will be one thing that makes it through. Maybe it won't, but that's the way I'll look at it. And again, it's a workshop discussion.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to we did discuss in the rates. I don't believe that at the present time, we should look at increasing or decreasing or anything with the rates until we have a final contract with Casella Waste if we do go that route. Because we don't want to, down the road, say, hey, we got to go up $10 on a transfer station sticker, and all of a sudden find out that the contract, we have to go up $20. We don't want to, I don't believe we want to be in that position. We want to go once with the increase and make the increase, where we have to be.
However, keep in mind that most folks buy their permits for the fiscal year in June.
Right.
So if we leave it at $50 for June and July and August, folks who buy early will benefit from the lower price. And then when we know how to tailor exactly how much we have to go up, folks who buy it later will be getting a shorter window of usage, but a higher fee. We just have to watch the logistics of how we.
My suggestion is leave it at $50 for a fiscal year and do the increase the following year, because we're not going to know. We got an extension till end of September right now. It could get extended out further than that. We don't know. We don't know which way COVID's going to go. We have no idea. There's a lot of unanswered questions out there right now at the present time.
We'll get to that discussion when we
Right.
talk about the rates.
I know, I just wanted to bring that up because the rates were mentioned and,
Yep.
just so.
Okay. So I want to thank Linda for joining us this evening and for giving us some information about what you're looking at with regard to the contract. And thank Jim and Robert for your input as well. And we'll continue to have these discussions as we need to set rates at some point. So thank you, Linda.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Linda.
So that brings us to ratification of financial assistance 3 for Ashley Sacco. In your packet, you have a letter from the town accountant, Mary Beverly, to the town administrator, and you also have in your packet a letter from the town administrator to me as chairman for us to take action this evening. Dear Chairman Hoyt, this letter is to advise the Board of Selectmen that subject to the board's ratification as provided in Section 10 of the Town Charter, Ashley Sacco has been appointed to the position of Financial Assistant 3 for the Accounting Department. Ms. Sacco has been working as a financial assistant for the treasurer/tax collector for the town of Adams and had expressed interest in growing within the town to fill the Financial Assistant 3 position recently vacated by the retirement of Barb Lewis in the Accounting Department. She has shown through her accuracy, dependability, hard work, willingness to learn, and excellent interactive personality and demeanor that she is an excellent fit for this position. As the sole applicant for this position, it is my pleasure to have her on board in this position subject to ratification. She will begin this position effective immediately at the grade 7 Step 8 rate of $23.50 per hour upon completion of any pending hiring requirements. Respectfully submitted, J.R. Green, Town Administrator. Jay, is there anything that you would like to add with this appointment?
No, just that we've taken a look at the position and tried to make an internal analysis as to whether or not the position should remain vacant, should the position be filled part-time, or should the position be filled as it had been prior, full-time. The decision was made, it is an essential position, was posted as such, the position is now filled, and Ashley is doing well, learning the ropes, and we look forward to having a lot of efficiency created in that department by having her in the job. We certainly thank Barb again for everything that she did for the town, for her long-standing career here with the town.
Thank you very much. What is the board's pleasure with regard to this ratification?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we ratify Ashley Sacco to the town treasurer, what is it?
It is.
Accounting, Assistant 3 for the accounting department, grade 7, step 8, rate of $23.50 an hour.
Thank you, Jim.
We got there.
Do I have a second? Second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. And I did welcome aboard, but she's already been on board for years, and just welcome to a new office. Excellent. All right.
Moved up the stairs,
Yeah.
that's right, move it on up.
Now I will welcome back to the podium our DPW Director, Robert Sober, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the parking meters. Jay, I might turn it over to you to see if, or do you want to, okay. I will just say that 8 or 9 weeks ago, I don't know, sometime in March, we had made a decision as part of the emergency orders to, I guess, shutter the parking meters for a period of time. Part of the reason to do so was to get people used to taking personal responsibility for their own hand sanitation or gloves or whatever PPE that they would need to go out into the world and to function. I think that 8 weeks has been a good amount of time for us to learn all of our hygiene habits so we can get back to some sort of normal. So I've invited Robert this evening to talk to us a little bit about what the plan would be to bring the parking meters back into service. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to you to walk us through that.
Yeah, well, with notification to go ahead with this, the plan is very simple. DPW will take the initial purpose of removing the covers and then cleaning them off using a wastewater solution and then wiping them down with paper towel. And basically doing that to all the meters. We will continue on a daily basis if that's the recommendation. We'd also like to pass this on to our official meter staff member, animal control officer, and have her take the process at that point. She should be able to handle that. And that's basically what we're looking to do.
So yeah, so that would be to get them back in operation. DPW is looking to sanitize all of the meters that have been shuttered for this period of time. And then it is in the job description of the animal control officer / parking attendant for routine maintenance of all of the meters. This would be considered routine maintenance anytime she's using the machine to make sure that she's spraying it down for her own safety. And that those materials would be supplied by DPW. But it really would be up to individuals, their own personal responsibility, just like when I use the ATM machine or I use any other type of public kind of machine. I'm using my hand sanitizer before and after use, and I think that would be on the public at this point. Jay, do you have anything to add?
That was the discussion that we had, was whether or not it was safe to restore them to service. The concern is very simply the sanitation of the machine. We don't have the staff or the time to continually sanitize them. The users have to take personal responsibility, use them accordingly, and we're concerned about the parking control clerks touching the meters to empty them. We have that sanitation plan in place. So every time Kim goes to empty a meter, she'll clean it down, and we just advise the public, like an ATM machine, as the chairman said, or any other type of public doorknobs or anything like that, just sanitize yourself when you're done. Very simple, straightforward process.
And it would need, a vote from this board to put them back in service. So we can open up for questions, or I could take a motion, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Madam Chair, I just, once again, now the sanitizing every day, Kim will have to go every day to each,
Just the,
okay.
just the one that
when
she
she empties, and, when she empties them, okay, because that's just
yeah,
too time consuming.
correct.
And so if tonight we agree to, reopen the, parking meters, to the public for, a fee, is Kim ready to go and start, is she up and ready to go to start looking at them, to ticket them and stuff? And another question, the first time, somebody's at a meter, is it gonna just be, warning? Because I think instead of a fine, will the first time a person is over parked, the time is off their meter, is that gonna be automatically a fine, or is it gonna be a warning so people know that this is happening? Because, in the past, we've been pretty inept at collecting fees from the parking lot, the parking meters. I know, years ago, the police used to do it, and then the police said, oh, that's not our job anymore, so, and then a lot of the meters were faltering, and so I was just wondering, how if we okay it, is it going to work?
My own opinion would be to, put a date in place that this would go into effect. So maybe, again, my own opinion would be maybe the, effective date would be June 1st, right? So it's a week and a half from now. That gives, DPW time to clean all of the machines and unbag them. It gives, Kim some time with the machines. I know that she has worked with them in the past, but she can make sure that they're all emptied and working. And it gives us time to then communicate to the public that these are now back in service and need to be used for, parking purposes. That's just my own opinion to answer.
And my final question about parking meters, I know at the visitor center, we had those parking meters put in. What's the future of them? And I noticed one has already been hit by either snow pushing it over a little bit, or...
We still need to, workshop that and, put in some parking rates and information for that particular lot. So that still has yet to come before our board.
All right, thank you.
Part of the delay was some of the talk about moving the council on aging and trying to time that better. But that does need to come back before our board. Other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion if anyone would like to make one.
I make a motion to put the parking meters back in service
Effective,
June 1st, is that what you're saying?
I just suggested it,
That's kind of 2 weeks, that's kind of,
so a week and a half,
June 1st.
June 1st, okay?
I'll second.
Okay. So I have a first and a second. Any further discussion on the parking meters? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That is unanimous. So the parking meters will go back into effect as of June 1st. And, we'll communicate that effectively to staff and to the public. Thank you very much. Robert, I appreciate your input on that. That brings us to the next item that we have to take action on. At our April 29th meeting, we did open the town meeting warrant. We are still moving forward with a town meeting scheduled for Monday, June 22nd. And still working out the details with the town moderator and the town clerk for what that would look like. But the order of business before us this evening is to close the town meeting warrant. I will notify all of you that we do have a citizen's petition that did come forward that will be put on the town meeting warrant. This is an item for the Veteran Property Tax Work-Off Program. That is the petition that was submitted with all of its signatures intact. This was actually submitted in December, and the person who did submit it held off until our next town meeting. So this has been with the town clerk's office on hold until this time. But Mr. Bianchi has been before our board and has talked about this program in the past and has gone forward with the appropriate number of signatures to get it on the warrant. So that is the only item that has come before us. So at this point, I do need a motion to close the town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Thank you, Rick. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Jim. Any discussion or questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that is unanimous. And then let's get to the heart of the meeting. And we have in front of us final discussion and approval of the fiscal 21 budget. In part of the agenda and in part of your packet is the table of contents from your budget book. What I'd like to do is go through each section of the budget and ask if anyone would like it held. What do you need over the, are you making a lot of noise over there? Is that what?
I guess, this relax too much like a drone.
Okay. Well, it's like all of a sudden there's a distraction to my right. I didn't see Peter react, that's why. So if we can, we'll go through the table of contents. I will mention the section of the budget. If you would like it held, please ask for it to be held. So the first item would be executive. Under the executive section is Selectmen, Town Administrator, Town Council, Moderator, Town Report.
Madam Chair, I just have a question before we begin.
Oh, sorry.
What about the revenue and those areas? If there's questions on that, can we go through those?
Do you want to go through those first? Sure.
I'll hold that area. I just have a few questions on the general. General information at the beginning.
Because you're talking about the budget overview.
Yes.
Yep. So why don't we do that first?
Okay, so I'll hold that. Or do you want to do that first?
Because that's not part of any of these sections.
Okay.
So, yes, if you have questions on the revenue side, which would be in the, kind of that first section of the budget book, right?
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and ask those questions? I apologize, I forgot about that.
That's okay. It's the early pages in the budget, where the revenues are identified for the town of Adams, for the next fiscal year. These revenue inputs were, identified prior to the crisis we're currently in. Not saying all of them, but most of them were. For example, state aid, which has increased every year, not by a lot, but it does increase. And this year, for the next fiscal year, going by the cherry sheets that are available at the time, and they do tend to change by the time the state legislature makes a final budget, pretty easily into July, on a normal year. It's $2 million, I would say it's about $2.8 million. The excise tax is, that state, which gets the local, is your, property taxes, make up a large chunk of your local revenue. Also, we do, well in the motor vehicle excise taxes, among other permits, fees, things like that. So if you look at just the motor vehicle excise tax estimated for fiscal year 2021, which is a conservative, compared to last year, I would say, $960,000. So, and also, the Economic Development Fund, which is based off of lodging and meals tax, taxes that come back to the town of Adams from the state, and also the use of free cash to offset the tax rate. So that's, may not be every revenue source, but those are the major revenue sources. So we made these, we built the budget, Jay Green and Mary did an excellent job. We had budget subcommittees, went through it a few times, and then we had a budget. Now things have changed. And in my opinion, the budget that we're approving, or that is up for approval this evening, will not be the budget that we'll end up with. Not going to happen. With the federal government has not, to this point, provided funding to state and local governments, which have taken a large hit. I know there's some grants that we're working to get funding for. But we have no idea, and really no community really has any idea of the amount of state cherry sheet funding for schools or for the communities. So this budget we have here today, and without having any state and local funding provided by the federal government, which is in the Senate, the U.S. Senate at this time, I believe, where we have our police officers and our teachers, and I can't speak for the water department, but the firemen. So the money, the state does not have the revenues it has had in the past. They had a rainy day fund, which I'm sure is going to be used up rather quickly, and they're still going to want to have a rainy day fund at a certain amount. So just to summarize, that the town of Adams and almost every community in the state will have less revenue from the state, and we'll find out most likely in a very, I would imagine next month or so. Within the next month, we will know a better idea of what the, I assume, reductions will be. So just a couple questions, Jay. Is that I know I've asked this question before, and the process we took is probably the only process we can take, because that's the information that we have at the time. But as we get closer to July 1, and we've anticipated so much in excise tax, we anticipated so much in state revenue, which we will not know for a little bit. What do you have concerns, or what is our process as, we go into July 1st with the full staff we have today, and we're moving forward because that's all the information we have. But looking into the next few months, the Economic Development Fund, I think, we probably could say is not going to be receiving much revenue in that fund, but we're moving forward as we would if we had the funding. The excise taxes may go down. I don't know. I can't foresee that. So July 1 is coming up rather quickly. We're going in with the same staff that we have currently into the next fiscal year. The thoughts on July 1 hits, and all of a sudden we're not getting the revenues, minus the state revenue that we expected. What will be the recourse of action? I know there's still some time out yet. So, long question, but.
Short answer, it's going to be painful. There's going to be cuts across every department, and it's going to be based on what our state aid number says. That'll be probably the first number we have. We have budgeted $2.5 million. If we receive a number from the state that says you're only going to get $1.5 million, then we know we have to take $1 million out. We're prepared right now to cut $800,000 out of the budget, and it'll be painful, and it's going to be bloody. And that's one of the reasons why we don't want to do it right now. Because if we do it right now, we might be causing more harm to providing services than what we need without knowing what the data shows. So we've decided that because we're already lean and mean, we already run a tight ship. Every office is down to bare bones for staff. Every service that we offer is down to what we can afford. That doesn't mean that we're on our knees. It means we're very smart and we're very conservative and we're efficient in how we deliver services. But what that means is if we go into this budget and take $250,000 out, or we take $500,000 out, it's going to affect what we do. Therefore, we feel the better approach is wait until we have a number that we know we can work with, a target number, and we have a menu of options within that $800,000 that we'll look at, come back before the board, go back before the finance committee, and then go half the town meeting and adjust the budget that way. School district has to do the same process, and towns that don't put a budget forward or go month to month will eventually have to build their budget, cut during the building process, and then put it forward with all those numbers. If we go month to month now, we can't spend anything on our capital, and we also can't adhere to any of our collective bargaining agreements that were previously voted in by town meeting. So we feel if we can have a safe town meeting, then we put a fiscal 21 budget forward, and we know that as we go from month to month to month, we're very judicious and very conservative in how we spend and watch those numbers. And then when we get the state aid numbers, or if we're watching those excise, tax numbers, we're able to tailor it accordingly. Now, the one thing that I will comment on, if you look at page Roman numeral 13 in your budget books, and for folks that don't have this at home that are watching, this essentially is our document that shows how we fund the budget from local receipts. And what Member Duval was referring to is a large portion of these local receipts are funded for motor vehicle excise tax. Our estimated receipts from fiscal 2019, we estimated in the budget of $944,504. Actual receipts for fiscal 2019 was $988,039. So we received more in excise tax than what we had budgeted for. If you look at estimated fiscal year 2020, we're estimating that we'll have $975,000 in excise tax received for this open fiscal year. And if you look at our estimated fiscal year 21, we're only estimating $960,000, which is less than fiscal 19 actual. And if you look all the way down at those other columns on that sheet, as I pointed out at our budget meeting, Mary has been very conservative in terms of our receipts for what we're budgeted for. So if we keep our fingers crossed, if we say our rosaries, knock on wood, however you want to say it, we might be able to get by without significant cuts based on local receipts, independent of that local aid number. But these receipts don't come in all in one shot. They're spread out. So that's why we have to be very judicious as we go forward with it. But for us, it's a very conservative budgetary approach. It works for us as a community, and I think it actually puts us a couple of steps ahead in this crisis, because we can watch it and we can monitor it. And we haven't been, for lack of a better term, living above our heads. We're living within our means. I think that's important from a municipal budgeting standpoint.
Okay, thank you. Just two quick questions. The assessor has estimated for our community, and this was an estimate we've had since the beginning of the budget process, is $2.2 million of new growth for the town of Adams. My concern will be that with the slowdown, and again, the crisis we're going through, but I think having the building inspector and the inspection services continue was the right way to go. That's a concern, because when you get to October, when the tax rate is set, that is a very important number, is growth. So 2.2 million is the estimate. Have to keep an eye on that. The last question I have is the process. Now, with town meeting, we go to town meeting with this current budget, let's say, and it gets approved this evening, and it goes out to the finance committee, and then it goes to the town meeting, and then it's approved, right? If we had a reduction, let's say we do get state aid is brought up pretty close. Let's say the Economic Development Fund didn't, we're really not getting anything there. But we may have to take some action there. We don't go back to the town meeting for another vote. We make a decision that we just can't fund that area for now. So at what point does the town go back to a town meeting, with a different budget? Because we can reduce throughout the year in different areas, but what is going to be that, the tripping point that's gonna have us go back, with another budget?
We have to strategize with the town accountant and determine at what point with the Department of Revenue, we have to set our tax rate on the tax recap sheet. Because even though we may choose not to spend money, we still have to show the Department of Revenue how we raise the money that's been appropriated. So in other words, just for keeping it round, if our budget is $10 million, we say we're gonna raise $10 million, and we're gonna raise it through local receipts, and then a portion of free cash, and on the tax rate. So even though we say we're only gonna spend 8, but we say we're gonna raise 10, we have to raise 10. We don't spend it, it just gets converted into free cash. So at some point, we have to strategize when we feel we have enough data. Our projections are based on some empirical data, not just wild speculation. And we're getting to the point where we have to look at setting that tax rate. That's probably the time we're gonna talk about going in and making those cuts. We also wanted some time to talk about with the Department of Revenue and what the federal government is doing. There is a pretty strong movement advocated for by our legislative delegation that the federal government specifically pass legislation that will allow communities to petition for loss of revenue. So there's the opportunity, if the federal government and or state government decides to pass those types of funding mechanisms, we can estimate that our reduction is $500,000 in revenue. If we can substitute that loss with that money, we won't have to make any cuts, because we'll have it. And that's one of the reasons why we did not want to cut ahead of time, because if the stars align appropriately, other mechanisms appear, we may not have to go in and make those bloody cuts.
Right, so again, the question is, when does the town and the board, are we required to go back to town meeting with a modified budget, even though it's gonna be less than the one that was approved? Because again, we do reduce throughout the year. We don't meet the budgeted estimates that we provide in July 1. We don't go back to town meeting. We make cuts during the year sometimes because of unforeseen areas that have come up on us. But why would we? So what are the reasons for us to go back to town meeting with another modified budget to have it approved, or to finance committee if it is less than the one that we bring forward for them to approve?
I'm gonna have a conversation with town accountant and speak with you, but that's the process that we have to do to formally cut the budget, because we still have to raise the fund. So if our budget right now is based on $16 million, we have to show how we raise $16 million, and that affects the tax rate. So if we go in and decide to cut, and we reduce the local state aid number, and we reduce spending in certain items, it readjusts how that recap sheet is done. So I would estimate we have to go back and do this before the end of the calendar year, if not sooner. I would say probably sometime in the fall. But we have not yet plotted that out yet.
Okay, so if you could speak with town council and get a response back to the full board, I'd appreciate it, of the process. Thank you. I'm all done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions about the revenue and expenses and everything in the beginning of the budget before we get into the different sections?
Yeah, I want to kind of echo what John had to say. One thing that I think, as Jay has brought up numerous times, right now, I don't think anybody has a clear-cut idea of what direction things are going, but I feel some assumptions. I worry now about people that had built new homes and their jobs were going. What are we going to see in our community for more homes going up for sale? Excise taxes for cars. People buy a new car, they're doing well, but all of a sudden they lose their job. Are they gonna get rid of that car and downsize? And if they do so, the excise tax for their vehicle will be much less than that of a newer type car. We're not gonna get anything for restaurant meals tax because our restaurants aren't open. And I think the unfortunate thing at this point is that it's really in the hands of the federal government. Although the state can help, the federal government has the bigger pocketbook. And as it stands now, the bill that the Democrats are putting through the House, it's already been said by Leader McConnell that it's dead on arrival. So it's a sense of posturing now. And the big problem with the federal government, it's a showdown year, it's an election year. So the tact is going to be, it's not going to really be what can help the people, it's going to be what side can help the people that want to be elected, get elected. The compromise is pretty much dead at the federal government at this point. I do believe that both the Democrats and the Republicans can come together a little bit on sending money to states and local government, but there's going to have to be a lot of give and take. And once again, when things are out of your hand, you just have to wait. And I think that's all we can do right now. And that's all I have to say.
Anything else? All right. We'll go back to, the sections of the budget. If you would like to hold that section, please let me know. So the first one is the executive section, which covers the budget for selectmen, town administrator, town council, moderator, and town report.
Hold, please.
Finance and technology.
Hold.
General government. Assessor, treasurer, collector, debt service, town clerk, elections, registrar of voters, codification. Community development. Covers community development, conservation commission, planning board, zoning board, historical commission, and agricultural commission. Inspection services, which covers inspection services, weight measures, inspector. I will be holding this one. Public health, covers board of health. I will be holding that one. Public safety, police department, animal control officer, parking management, emergency management, forest warden. Public service, council on aging, veteran services, Memorial Day remembrances, library. Public buildings, police station, registry of deeds, town hall, public buildings / property maintenance, community center, Adams Memorial Building, visitor center. Public works.
Hold.
And lastly, regional schools, Hoosick Valley Regional School District. I'll take them separately. Hoosick Valley Regional School District. And the second one would be Northern Berkshire Vocational Regional School District. So I didn't hear any holds on those. So let me just restate. John has asked to hold the section of the budget that falls under executive, correct? Joe has asked to hold finance and technology. I have asked to hold inspection services and public health. And Joe has asked to hold public works. Is that correct? Okay. Which, then if we can, I'll take a motion to approve the areas that were not held.
So move.
So Rick has made a motion to approve those.
Second.
Second by Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is unanimous. Okay. So we will go back to, section under executive, and I will turn to John.
Madam Chairman, just very briefly, the selectmen receive $1,200 a year as a stipend. The chairman receives $2,000 as a stipend. I would like to request that the $1,000 from the selectmen in my position I'd like to not get paid for this position, so I'd like to give back $1,000. I don't know if you could do that regarding the charter. And also May 1st is May is when I'm up for reelection, so it wouldn't be the $1,200. It would just be for the fiscal year, it would just be $1,000. So I'd like to request that be removed from that, put in wherever it goes, free cash or offset something else a lot. I'd rather not get paid for this position. And I believe selectmen should get paid more than we do now because it's difficult to get selectmen to run for these positions. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of mileage, it's a lot of meetings. This is just a personal position that I'm taking for my own personal reasons, but selectmen, in my opinion, should get paid more than what's here budgeted. In other communities, they do get paid more for stipends, but I would just want to have mine removed.
I think we'd have to look and see if we can do that. I don't know what the dollar amount would be, because if you were, it would be, I guess it would be less than $200, I guess you did that math. Sorry. You didn't know the election date. I know, I'm processing that. It's after 9, my brain is a little mush, so I apologize. Dave, were you looking to see if that is something that we can do?
Yep.
That's it, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
I think, do we need a motion?
We would need a motion to approve.
I think you need a motion to make the modification, and then you need to make a motion to approve the section as modified. I think that's how it has to be done.
Okay.
So I'll make, sorry.
John can make that motion. Yeah, so John needs to make that motion.
I'll make a motion under personal services detail, under the selectmen part of the budget, that the selectmen that get paid $1,200 a year, one of those selectmen line items be reduced to $1,000. I'm sorry, $200. You did the math, $200.
Yep. So I have a motion by John. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Jim. Any discussion? Go ahead, Rick.
Council's still on the phone?
Council is on the phone. I can,
Council is on the phone.
legal counsel, I've just unmuted you.
Okay, go ahead.
There, we are looking at the section of the budget that involves the stipends to the Board of Selectmen. We have a member of the board that would like to reduce one of the lines of that budget, who would be the one that affects, him. But reducing that to, just $200.
Yep, I heard that.
And so the question from Member Blanchard is whether or not that can be done.
Yes, that can be done. You have a motion to that effect, and it's been seconded.
Yep, so the motion was to modify that line of that section of the budget with a reduction to $200.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Thank you, John. So, anything else in that section of the budget?
All set, thank you.
Okay. Then can I get a motion to approve, the section of the budget that falls under executive with the modification?
So moved.
We have a motion by Rick, for a second.
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is unanimous. All right, thank you. So Joe, you held finance and technology.
Yeah, under the line item, employee and retirement benefits, if I heard correctly, we have lost $8 million in our pension plan from our portfolio of stocks. And I was just wondering, I've never owned stocks, I've never had enough money to do so, but when you own stocks, do you have a portfolio manager, or is it just the town that, you know, takes care of it? Because by losing $8 million, $8 million, it seems to me that somebody wasn't looking at the stocks as they were moving along, and then all of a sudden, we're down $8 million, and then we decide to put it in a kind of safer environment. I don't know anything about it, and then Mary said, oh, don't worry about it, it will come back. I'm not as confident that $8 million is gonna come back as fast as you think. So what does that do to our pension plan for our employees?
That's a retirement, council
Okay,
question.
all right.
And Mary can answer that
Okay.
question for you.
All right,
So
thank you.
it's not a town budget issue. I can tell you that, I'm not entirely well versed with that, because like you, I don't have enough money really to do that. But all the time, it's like this, all the time with stocks. But that's part of the pension fund setup, but Mary can give you those details.
Well, that's really part of the town, people that are receiving pensions from the town of Adams, we're town employees. So I just think that $8 million to go down that quick, maybe I'm sure other people have lost out, but that's a lot of money lost. And I'm not as confident as Mary said that, don't worry about it. I know they go up and tide stocks, that's quite obvious, but I don't know, that's all I had. I just hope that, that with more people retiring, I hope people are not all of a sudden gonna say, well, we gotta lower your pension because we don't have the, money to pay you what we promised you. And that's all I have. That just kind of was something that took me aback.
Yep, and something that, the retirement board would have to address,
Yeah.
at some point, to answer that question. Anything else under the finance and technology section? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and take a motion to approve that section.
So,
I have a motion by Rick, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The next two, I held, due to a conflict of interest that I have, with my husband serving as the chair of the Board of Health. The stipends for the Board of Health fall under inspection services, and the Board of Health budget falls under public health. So I will be abstaining from those two, sections of the budget, but if there are no other questions or comments, you could actually group those and make a motion for those two sections.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the inspection services and public health plan.
I have a motion by Rick, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Jim, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And one abstention, and that would be Christine Hoyt abstaining for the minute. And that leaves us with, Public Works. So,
Yeah,
Joe, go ahead.
Once again, I'm just going to go to the song I've been singing a long time about salt use. We spent our allotment for salt, and, I had gone online and looked at state of Massachusetts salt use, and a lot of communities were happy because there wasn't as much snow, and, their use of salt, it saved them, quite a bit of money on the budget. Once again, public safety is a key issue for us, but once again, I'm going to say we've got to find a better way to curtail the use of road salts, not just budget-wise, but environmentally, and that's all I have to say.
Anything else under Public Works? All right, hearing none. All right, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Jim to approve the Public Works section of the budget, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. Any further discussion?
I was waiting for you to say, approve the, public works.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving the Public Works budget?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No abstentions, okay. So we will move the, fiscal 2021 budget onto the Finance Committee. I do know that, Finance Committee Chair Tim Burdick is, I believe, watching at home, and sending me messages as we've been going along. So he is going to be scheduling that meeting, and I believe it's for next week. I think they were, targeting next Thursday for the finance committee to be meeting.
Madam Chair, point of order, I believe we have to vote on the bottom line of the school budgets. We have to vote on the, operational, our foundation budget, we have to vote on the transportation part.
We did. No one held them.
Okay, I always thought they were separate motions. They are separate warrant articles, but maybe we can vote that. Or we can just vote that as warrant articles when we do that.
I think we do it warrant articles.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
But I, yeah. All right. Department reports. Jay, aside from budget, COVID-19, and everything else, that you've talked about this evening, is there anything else you would like to update us on?
I've used this term before, but I think it's true. I just want to remind everybody that despite the rocky economic forecast coming up, and despite us having to use a buzzword lately, pivot, et cetera, and make some changes, as a community, we're stable and we're steady. We just have to pay attention to the ship and keep it upright, and we'll be okay. So it's just important to take each day one day at a time, each issue one day at a time, think it through, and go forward from there. But we're doing okay.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jay? Then I will turn it over to town council. Town council has provided a written report this evening, which should be at your table. And town council, I have unmuted you, so sorry.
All right, thank you. I continued working on a litigation matter, and I would like to meet with the board in executive session in the next week or two to discuss that matter further.
Okay.
I also responded to several requests concerning a conflict of interest issues. I completed research into the procedures needed to revise the town charter. I researched and provided information concerning a proposed bylaw, and I attended today's Board of Health meeting and participated in that meeting. Thank you.
Any questions for town council?
Yeah, I do, Madam Chairman. Sorry to interrupt. Ed, this is John Duvall. I'm not sure if you heard the conversation that I was having with our town administrator in regards to what is the trigger point for us to go back to town meeting, to have another town meeting to vote a budget. And he gave a good explanation for it. I'm just looking for clarification legally, or and maybe you don't have it this evening, but what is that trigger point that we have to go back again with a new budget? Because from year to year, our budgets do fluctuate. We don't receive the revenues some years that we expected. We don't go back. Other years we caught because of, we had the dump truck didn't run or something. We had to fix it or get a new one. There's always, we approve a budget, town meeting approves a budget, but there's always changes throughout the year. So if the budget is not going up, what is the trigger point for us to go back under the situation we're in to have another budget reviewed and approved by the town meeting?
All right, well, I have your question written down, John. I want to do some research on it, and I'll get back to you with the results of that.
That sounds good. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Other questions for town council? Hearing none, thank you very much, Ed, for sticking on the line and answering a couple questions here and there tonight.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll go ahead and mute you again.
All righty.
Although your house is quiet, so you could stay unmuted if you wanted. It's not like my house is dark and loud. All right, that brings us to subcommittee and liaison reports. John, I'm going to start with you. That's where the camera's pointed.
We have a full commission meeting tomorrow evening for the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. Definitely going to be asking questions or listening in on what Donna has brought forward, the COVID-19 funding opportunities. So definitely interesting points to be discussed and what their role is going to be. And then the last thing is we have a MPO meeting next Tuesday, and then I could come back to the board with more definitive information in regards to the Route 8 project question. Last that we met, the funding was all approved. We are ready to go out to bid, and I'll see where that is.
Thank you, John. Jim, under subcommittee liaison.
Yeah, we've had a number of Northern Berkshire solid waste meetings over the past month to discuss our upcoming contract. And as everybody heard tonight, we will be meeting with solid waste tomorrow to discuss a preliminary contract. Banners for Fallen Heroes are moving along nicely. Hopefully, next week, we're gonna have a meeting, get everything together, and send it off to firms to have the banners printed off. That's all I have.
Okay, that's good split. Thanks, Jim. Rick?
I have nothing.
Okay. Joe?
Nothing here.
Okay. Announcements and good of the order, since we're down that way. Joe?
Okay, I have a few things. Jay, I was wondering, just the other day, I saw a railroad track safety vehicle on the tracks near the scenic railway spur of it. Who's paying for that?
Mass DOT.
Mass DOT will do that even on, okay, so thank you. And I saw that we received through the Cultural Council $40,000 for the railroad, upgrade. I was just wondering, why was it under Lennox? And then the money went to Adams,
It just indicates the headquarters of the organization that applied.
okay?
So if you remember back, must have been, was it fall when the lease was signed with Berkshire Scenic for the station? Tom Delasco, the president for the museum, was here. That triggered Berkshire Scenic to have the authority to file the grant for a town-owned building. So they're the grant holders, and it's a matching grant. However, that program, unfortunately, I don't think has its funding yet. Okay, so that's another victim of COVID-19, we'll see. But it's for the completion of the Adams Station building.
Yeah, and I saw that there's a lot of people buzzing around and doing work in there. Are we still using the money from the grant that we received for the platform? So there was enough money left over to keep that going?
Yes, the people you see buzzing around is still Roger Rice, our contractor. He's finishing up the bathrooms, putting in tile.
Okay, and, what's going on Summer Street? I see the gas company there, I see, are they putting in a new gas line or?
Yep, the police chief has asked me to read a statement this evening about that, so I can do that right now. The police chief has sent the statement over. It says, starting Thursday, May 21st, workers will begin the installation of a new gas main along the southern section of Summer Street. It will run from the Cherry Street area to the intersection of Center Street. This project will consist of replacing the existing gas main and the service lines leading to residences that are gas customers. The project is expected to go well into the summer months. During this time, expect delays and redirected routes of travel. The intent is to conduct the process with the least amount of inconvenience to vehicle and pedestrian traffic. It has been put out by the Adams Police Department on social media. I believe it was asked that the town put it out on our social media page as well. And the chief asked me to send it to the BRTA for any travel, inconveniences that might occur because of that. That was announced today.
Okay, thank you, and, I brought this up to you, Jay, I can't even remember what a meeting was about, the area where, we had a building demolished, Burnett's old shoe place, I don't know, you weren't here there, but it's town property, and I have a gentleman that lives across the street, he's continued to hound me because he has
That corner of Winter and Summer?
yeah.
I asked DPW to go over and pick up the lot. There was a lot of litter and garbage.
Yeah, and it hasn't been mowed, and a lot of it, I think that, the people on Winter Street also have to be attuned that they should take care of their, property. I know they're all renters and things, but, on a road right next to the housing units, it's really a mess. And it's bad when you're walking around town and you look down there and see that, but that's something I don't know how he is. you know, you make a resolution to it other than, you know, they should be, there's a dumpster right there, but, you know, there's a lot of kids that live there, you know how kids are, but, so, and another thing I saw, was today about Bascom Lodge. You know, they're not gonna be able to open and, you know, they were asking for, you know, help by people donating money, but I was wondering, since it's in Adams, if you'd be kind enough to call somebody from DCR, I mean, it's a state-owned, business, to see if there could be any financial help. I mean, that's the premier spot in the whole state as far as, you know, Bascom Lodge, and if it gets to the point where they're looking for money for people to, you know, donate, that's not good. So could you just, you know, ask around about that? Sure. Because they've done a great job up there, the Dudek brothers, they run it, and it's been a real success with people going up there and having meals and things. And thank you for getting back to me on that question that I forgot to ask about all the police cars while their officers are away from them, they're just left idling. Yep. And I like the response that Chief Tarsa gave. He didn't mince his words. And so I think that that's really important, because that's a waste of gas. It's also a lot of pollutants going into the air for no reason. So thank you, Chief, if you're watching, for the response, and thank you for being not candid about it. You told it like it was. And lastly, this is for you, Jay. I was wondering, you've been doing it sporadically, and it's been helpful to me. If at the end of the week, if anything comes up that, you know, just right, like this week, you know, something happened, or, you know, Summer Street's gonna start, just kind of a recap. You've done it, but it's been sporadic. So if you could, you know, just, you know, put out, it doesn't have to be wordy, just things that you think that myself and others as selectmen should know. Okay, I appreciate it, and long-winded, that's all I have.
That was the before time.
BT, or BC.
Before COVID, you were doing that.
I called it my Friday afternoon summation.
Yep.
I don't even know what Friday is anymore.
What day is it? Rick, anything?
I'll be a polar opposite, I have nothing.
Okay, Jim?
I have nothing.
Okay, John?
Madam Chair, as you have mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, that support our first responders. That's very close to home to me. As we come out of this crisis, hopefully people will start to think about what really matters, how important life is, and maybe that social media sideshow will end, probably not. But I just wanted to mention that for those of us in the arena, as they call it, including our town administrator, I think he's done a fantastic job in working through this emergency. It was thrown upon him, as with others throughout the state, out of nowhere, and we've all had to adjust, and it's a crazy thing. But I want to thank town administrator Jay Green for all his work and keeping government moving forward, staying positive, and keeping the board informed with all the information we need. And so again, thank you for all your efforts in the last few months.
Thank you.
I forgot. I just want to thank Marilyn, Gary, Stracky, and Kyle for bringing flowers out.
Well, Ray was here earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a great job, you know. This time we need something to break this town up a little bit.
You know, just to show everybody how COVID affects everything. Last year when I was here, I didn't know that was normally a process where we got together and went out and planted flowers. So when it came time to plant the months, I went out with everybody and did it last fall. This year, I wanted to encourage everybody from town hall and the other buildings to get together and kind of blitz downtown and do it. And I was gonna buy the staff lunch in order to do that. However, between the numerous conference calls that I've had to be on and the fact that we just can't assemble anymore and get together and have a lunch, we couldn't do it. So this affects not only very high-level functions, but it also affects very basic human interaction. And the longer this goes on, the more I sit back and think it through, it permeates almost every aspect of life. So, yes, thank you to them. We're able to keep up with things such as just beautification of our downtown, and that's what we intend to do, is provide a level of normalcy as best we can in times of uncertainty. And if that's the base function we can do as a government, then so be it.
I also want to thank the staff for putting out the congratulatory signs for Hoosick Valley, McCann, and Barge that went on today. So it was nice to drive into town hall today and see those as well for our class of 2020 graduates. I don't have anything else for announcements and good of the order. We do have an executive session in front of us this evening. So I do need a motion to go into an executive session, and just as a point of order, we would only be coming out of executive session to conduct business to just adjourn this meeting. So there's two reasons, reasons number 2 and number 3. If somebody wants to read those.
I'll make a motion to, we enter executive session for purpose number 2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with nomination personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And also for purpose number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the body, and the chair so declares.
Okay, I have a motion by Rick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. It is a roll call vote. Joe?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And it's a yes from Christine, so that is unanimous. We will go into executive session. And I'm just gonna ask for a 5-minute recess, so that we can clear the room. Okay? Yeah. And Deb, I'm gonna let you go as well, and I will take minutes, on your behalf, so that you can get on with the rest of your evening.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Deb. Thanks. See you tomorrow.